Jake, what about your thoughts on the AL Central?
The White Sox, I just have no interest in backing. It's just, I have no idea what they're going to be. Eloy Jimenez already dealing with injuries. No idea who's playing second base behind Elvis Andrus. No idea who's playing right field. It's just, there's such a lack of clarity there. There's one thing that I saw out of the AL Central that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And yesterday I was here on this fine program, and me and Ken Barkley talked about Jose Ramirez as an MVP candidate, and I think it's going to be his time soon. I jumped in on that at 16-1. But I went to the Cy Young side for AL Central because I saw a number that kind of popped out to me, and me and Joe Ostrowski talked about this a little bit this morning on BetQL Daily. There's a 100-1 on Joe Ryan, who was a highly regarded rookie last year, came up, showed some flashes, but had some issues going deeper in the game, and a lot of people killed Rocco Baldelli for not letting Twins starters go deep in the games. And Sonny Gray came out a couple days ago and said, yeah, a lot of guys on the staff last year were fine with going 4 innings or 5 innings and just being happy with that. And, we really changed our mentality, and we're trying to get deeper into the game, 6, 7, 8 innings. And really, I don't even think that was a Rocco Baldelli thing. I think it was just Twins management being like, hey, Joe Ryan's a prized arm here. Hey, Sonny Gray's 32 years old. Hey, Tyler Mahle has injury history. Let's manage these guys and kind of work up their workload. And that did start to happen. And Joe Ryan had his stretches where he looked really dominant, looked really awesome. His changeup is beautiful. And now another year with the Major League team, with the Major League training staff, and that is going to be huge, I think, for a rookie going into his second year, obviously. And he also added a new pitch, which gives him another pitch to offer other than just fastball changeup. And it's had good results in spring. Ryan's looked pretty good in spring for a guy that was one of the, not favorites, but he was up there with the favorites for Rookie of the Year last year as a pitcher, which you don't see a lot because pitchers hardly ever win this award. See Exhibit A, Spencer Strider. But for somebody who has a lot of potential and showed those flashes of dominance last year, 100-1 feels wrong to me for Joe Ryan. It's something that I'm definitely going to watch. I'll probably wait a start or two and watch those starts to see how much he mixes in these new pitches, if the philosophy really has changed that the Twins are letting their guys go deeper into games. Because if it's just going to be 5 innings in a hook, then I'm not interested. But if they're letting him go deep into the games and letting him get that pitch count up, it's something I'll definitely consider doing. Outside of that, this is just a Guardians division. That's even with Tristan McKenzie hurt, I still think the Guardians have this, and they call up pitchers and just churn them out like the Rays did 10 years ago and like the Dodgers did a couple years ago. Like that's just what the Guardians do. They plug and play guys. If Tristan McKenzie misses a couple months, I think they'll be okay, especially because the Guardians schedule to start the year is a lot of Nationals, a lot of Red Sox, and a lot of Royals, and those teams are going to stink.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, shop around too for that Joe Ryan number, because I'm seeing 50-1 here, and Jake was saying 100-1. So they are clearly, Jake, there's clearly some value there with Joe Ryan. What about the NL Central, Jake? When we were talking with Kenny Ducey, he was saying that he was high on the Brewers. He sees some value in the Cardinals, maybe to win the NL pennant. He thinks the Cubs could be a surprise team. What are your thoughts on that division? And even a team like the Pirates, maybe, who obviously have a lot of young prospects. Like, do you think there's any chance they could be this year's Orioles potentially and could surprise a bunch of people?
I don't think the Pirates are quite ready to surprise on that level. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that come up and will be fun to watch. And that started with O'Neal Cruz last year, obviously. And Cruz looks awesome this spring. It looks like he's really cutting down on the whiffs. He's really using all fields, and he'll probably benefit from the shift a little bit. Maybe not as much as, guys like Anthony Rizzo, for example, but he should benefit from that. So the Pirates youth movement is probably going to get started this year in the earnest. I don't think they're ready to make a playoff push like the Orioles did, but I think they're going to be scrappy. Yeah, I think they're going to be at least entertaining to watch, and it's not just going to be like, oh, the Pirates are on. God, give me anything else to watch. So I think they could be a little bit scrappy. The Cubs, I actually kind of agree with Kenny Ducey. I think they have the ingredients, let's say, to make a team that could be around 500. I don't think they're ready to return to the playoffs just yet, but I think they could be a team that's in the picture and, quote unquote, in the hunt. So I think the Cubs could exceed expectations. A lot of that rides on their rotation. It's kind of thin, but other than that, I think a lot of it depends on, how some of these high risk guys like Cody Bellinger pan out, like Kenny said. As far as the Brewers, though, I want nothing to do with the Brewers. I think this team is going to stink. And part of this is I don't want anything to do with the Brewers pitchers and NL Cy Young betting either. I don't want anything to do with Corbin Burns. I don't want anything to do with Brandon Woodruff. And those guys are, obviously Burns is one of the favorites and Woodruff is a little further down the board, but still up there. I want nothing to do with either of those guys because it could be July and one or both of those guys are wearing an AL uniform and then you're just dead. And then you're just kind of cooked and you're just sitting there with a ticket for firewood. So I want nothing to do with either of those guys. And the Brewers, what are they doing on offense? I have no idea. Like William Contreras is a nice addition, but you have the ghost of Christian Yelich still out there in left field. They're just kind of hodgepodging this thing together. They traded away Colton Wong. They brought in Jesse Winker, who, okay, he might be high upside and he returns the NL Central, but they're just kind of throwing this thing together and seeing what sticks. I don't want anything to do with the Brewers. I don't think they're going to be that good. I could be totally wrong. I could look like an idiot in a couple months, but as far as the Cy Young Award goes, I stand by that. I think one or both of those guys is getting traded. I do not want to bet them at all. And the Cardinals, as a Cardinals fan, I try not to, bet them or talk about them too much because I try to keep the two separate, much like I do with Illinois athletics, and we all saw how well that went for me. But as far as the Cardinals, yeah, they have everything that you need to be a championship team. They have the guy that just won the MVP last year and Paul Goldschmidt. They have another guy that finished top 5 in last year's MVP voting and Nolan Arenado. It's just about the pitching. Is Jack Flaherty going to be the guy that was an ace in 2019, or is he going to be the guy that pitches 60 innings and is hurt by the end of April? It just depends. Jordan Montgomery looked awesome for them all last year once he came back over from the Yankees, was phenomenal. Adam Wainwright's already on the IL. The Cardinals have the depth. They have a ton of pitchers. They just have, list 20 names deep, and they could just pull guys from AAA, AA, and they've shown that they're not afraid to make trades to bring guys in either as depth, but they'll go as far as the rotation takes them. They'll have the offense, and obviously adding Wilson Contreras was huge for that offense because Yadier Molina was a 0 for the last 3 years or so as far as his hitting went, but they'll have the offense to compete with a lot of these teams, but can the rotation perform up to even average? And I think they'll be okay. That's a question, but yeah, they definitely have what it takes to win a World Series. It's just a matter of health.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what happens in the NL Central. Jake, I want to just ask you kind of like a baseball for dummies question almost, because there are so many baseball games throughout the year, right? 162 games. You pretty much get like 15 games a day. When you're betting baseball daily, like what are things that you look for?
So for me, I just kind of split it up. Like, as far as I look at what games start earliest, obviously, and see if there's anything there that I kind of like or sticks out. But a lot of it is pitchers for me. And obviously, as you know, I know probably way more pitchers, who's good, who's bad than most people. And it's because I'm a sicko, but I just look for pitchers who stand out, guys who are lefty, righty, teams that are better against lefties or righties. And I have a list in my head generally of guys I like to fade. And for example, opening day, I can't wait to fade Blake Snell. That guy stinks out loud. He is the way it's always, he ends the year well and he strikes out a ton of guys. Time to get on the Blake Snell train. No, he stinks. He's just not good. As our king Stephen A. Smith always says, he's a scrub. He can't play. He's just not good. The fact he's the opening day starter for the Padres is just an absolute travesty. I can't stand him. And he had such bad history against the Rockies last season. And now the Rockies have Chris Bryant already before he inevitably gets hurt. And they have Ezekiel Tovar, who I'm really high on. And they have an actual lineup, not to mention CJ Cron, who was in the race for the home run leader last year. Rockies lineup can do some damage. Blake Snell stinks. And of course, the Rockies are the Rockies. So I can't wait till bet the over in that game. I'll probably take the Rockies in the first 5 money line on that game. But it's just stuff like that. Knowing guys, specifically pitchers that I like to target and kind of fade. On BetQL Daily, we called it our LOL, our list of losers. And we're probably going to run that back and we're going to cultivate it again. So that's just kind of how I do it, just specific pitching matchups usually. But sometimes it's just you pick your favorite. You just pick something that works for you and something that you like. And for me, it's pitchers versus specific teams.